Hi, today we're going to talk about how to hook up a scan tool to an OBDII vehicle. Okay? Anything that's OBDII is generally 1996 and newer and can be easily identified by a 16-pin D.L.C, usually located underneath the dashboard. The typical rule of thumb is it's within arm's reach of the driver, so sitting in the driver's seat. You're typically going to find it directly underneath the dash or over by the left kick panel on the driver's side. Okay. So the D.L.C stands for a data link connector. Okay. There's 16 pins in there. Not all of them are always used, but they're used to communicate information via a data bus line between different computer modules inside of the car. This allows us access with a scan tool to determine if there's any codes and what those codes are when we have a service engine soon light, a malfunction indicator lamp that is turned on the dashboard. So what we're going to connect is I have here a Solus, snap-on Solus. Okay, it's pretty good, real quick, simple hookup of a scan tool. Okay, this one it attaches pretty easy, and its power supply typically comes from the D.L.C. So it does have a charger to keep this charged, but for the most part, I mean, as long as you plug it into that D.L.C, it pulls all of its power from there, from the vehicle's battery, so it'll just pop right on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our cable. Okay, we've got a DA4 cable on the back. It's got a green LED on it. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug it directly in. Okay, once we plug that into the D.L.C, now I don't even have the key on in the ignition, and what you'll notice is there's a green light that lights up on the bottom of this. Now, not all scan tools have this. This is just like a snap-on thing, but it's really kind of a nice touch because it lets you know that the scan tool is receiving power and ground from the D.L.C. So it's a real quick indicator that you got a good connection and you should be able to communicate. Okay. Once that's connected, we're going to take a look here on our screen. Okay. The very first thing that you're going to want to go to is you're going to want to go to Scanner over here on the left. Okay. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up the scan tool. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit this button over here. It's just our scanner. Alright. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to select our vehicle. We have a Chevy Venture van. So up here is our Chevy. Alright, now it's going to ask us for our VIN. So right here I went through and I wrote down the VIN number for the car. So the first one it asks us for is the 10th character, which is a 3. So we'll scroll down here. So right there's our 3 for 2003. It is a Chevy. So now it asks select model, 4th or 5th VIN character. So we're going to take a look at the 4th and the 5th. We have a D and an X. So we're going to scroll down until we see either one of those. And right there we got the X. So that's our Chevy Venture van extended. And then our 8th character for verification, scan tool says an E. If we were to look, there's our E. So, alright. So then it asks us to verify, is this the vehicle that we want to enter? So we go ahead and we select yes or OK. And then we select the system that we're trying to access. So that's how we hook up a scan tool. Okay, it's that easy. You just plug it in down in the D.L.C, and once it's in, you enter the vehicle information. Okay, then you get the subcategories right here: engine, transmission, anti-lock brakes, airbags, instrument panel, cluster, and keyless entry. Most of the time you're going to be in the engine. Okay, that's where you're going to pull up most of your codes. Okay, now there's one final step before I select engine, and the scan tool will tell you to do it, but I like to do this kind of ahead of time. Put the key in the ignition and make sure the key is in the run position, and I'll show you what that means. Anytime we want to put the key in the ignition and go to the run position, what you want to do take a look at the dash, and you want to make sure that everything on the dash, as far as the light bulbs, illuminate. So you're going to go 2 clicks forward. 1, 2. So all of our dash are indicators, and that's called our bulb test. So anytime you go 2 clicks forward, that's the run position, or what's referred to as bulb test. And what that means is, when you put in that position, you should see all your dashboard lights come on. Let's see if I can move the steering wheel a little bit. You can barely see, but there's a service engine soon light. That light needs to be on when that key is in the run position. Okay, if that light's not on, or your check engine light's not on, that means you probably have a bad bulb behind it. So if that's the case, you definitely need to scan your car for codes. So now that we got the key forward, okay, we'll go back to our scan tool, taking a look at our data, and we go here, we select our engine. Okay, we've already got the cable under the dash, so we're good. Okay, so then we have data display, codes menu, functional test, generic functions, and troubleshooter. Okay, throughout class we're going to talk about each one of these and what they do. But for right now, the first thing we're going to go to is we're just going to select codes, and I'm just teaching you guys how to pull up codes. So we go to codes menu, and then we want to display the codes. So right here, it's got code information, history codes, failed disignition, MIL or SVS or message requested, last test failed, and test failed since codes cleared. So what we're going to want is failed disignition. So we're going to go ahead and select that. So right there are our codes. So we got a P0, 122, throttle positioning, or APP sensor, so that's accelerator pedal position sensor 1, circuit, short or low. And then P1122, which is throttle positioning, circuit, intermittent or low voltage. Now, cool thing about both of these, the first code is a P0 code, and what that means is that it's a generic trouble code. But the one below it is a P1 code, which means it's a manufactured specific code. So the manufacturer, or Chevy in this case, or GM, they're the ones that gave this particular vehicle this code. Okay, so essentially no other manufactured vehicle will have this code except for whichever one GM chooses to put it on. Okay, so this code could be different for Toyota or Mitsubishi or Ford, but the P0122, that's a generic one, so that'd be the same for just about all makes and models. Okay, alright, so once we're done, now we're going to back out. So we can hit the N button over here for no, and this will back us out, and we're just going to keep backing out. Okay, and if I want to, I can go to clear codes, and if I select right here, it'll ask me if I'm sure to clear these codes. Select yes, and then there it goes. So it'll turn the check engine light off, so the next time you start it up, your codes will be cleared. And that's assuming that you solve the problem. Okay. Now if you didn't do anything to the vehicle and the code was there, it's just going to come right back on as soon as that problem steps up again. Alright, so now we're going to back all the way out, and we're going to disconnect from the vehicle. So we're going to keep backing out until it says stopping communication, or until we start to see vehicle specs. Once we see vehicle information like this, the scan tool has stopped communicating with the PCM. So now we can go ahead and we can shut the scan tool down. Simply power off, select OK. Okay, and then we can turn our ignition off. The next step, just disconnect the D.L.C. connector, and you're done. And that's how we hook up and run a scan tool on an OBDII vehicle.